First half was a bit of a bloodbath, and the second didn't fare too much better for Apeks as they did concede their choice of map 16-5. And we touched on it a little bit, Tom. Next up's Train, and I don't think it gets any easier from here. When you have Mia on 23 kills, Balance on 20 kills, it's hard to see who of Apeks could feasibly stand up and really challenge these guys.
Yeah, 0% win rate. Like, that's all you need to say. Like, and that's over. Like, even in the last month, they played it a couple of times. They lost it to AGF, who are obviously a team they beat just yesterday, and K23, obviously the Kazakhstanian team. So yeah, it's not the greatest of signs. Like, sure, it's not a map that we see Spirit play like religiously or anything. Like, it comes up a few times here and there, and they've had a couple of losses. I would say they're a bit more vulnerable on this map than the last one, but that's because, as I said, they hadn't lost to a European, or they'd lost to one European team in 6 months. So realistically, that's a very strong map for them. In this case, they've lost to Fnatic and Virtus Pro, who are both pretty decent train teams. So I'm still not going to be sat here singing this as any other tune than Spirit are going to take this in the 2-0. But I'm hoping for Apeks' sake, maybe starting on that CT side can give them a bit of a boost to start them off.
The thing is, though, Tom, I always get a little bit worried for CT side on Train because I think it's one of those halves that's very susceptible to just being straight up crushed if you don't get a good beginning. And although they have won both pistols, by the way, in the first map, they've got a very good pistol record. The fact of the matter is, when it came to the rifle rounds, they really were straight up destroyed. Now, you mentioned about Julies. I know you're going to have a bit of a grin on your face here because it's Groose that has them in the Pop Dog. Don't see them too much. I think it was Magix that said it's his favorite weapons, or maybe Groose has a couple of things to say about that.
Yeah, I think that last time with Risk seeing these guns, they did get an ace. It's not quite going to be the same again. Keto isn't going to be repeated, but hey, 2 kills with some Julies. Kill a piece, you could say, for each gun. Amir, well, he thought he was being very sneaky there, but in fact, Marcelicious was aware of the angle, leaving just 2 players left. Of course, one of the rounds they did manage to take in the last was also a pistol round. So, you know, I'm not going to be writing too much about this just yet, but realistically, I want to see them get off to a good start on the CT side. And, well, you normally start that with a pistol.
Although this round isn't over just yet, the odds certainly stacked against Spirit. Apeks really desperately require to get, I would say, a 3-0 lead here, get that economy built up, get the ult in play, make something of it. Or maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because Chopper's now just drilled into Marcelios and some Die Young catches Dennis from the back with 18 seconds, more than enough time for the bomb plant. Both players pretty healthy. Jacob's been spotted. They can now bypass the IV position and clump together. Now, neither of these 2 players has a USP, so at this kind of a range, it will still favor the CTs, but they've closed the gap, and Jacob's head has been carved open. It's some Die Young that chips in for that one, and now Nasty, 1-on-2 with no kit, has to try and look for these frags. He knows one player's up in heaven, but there's Chopper. The 2v4 clutch goes against Apeks. When it rains, it pours, Tom, and right now it's torrential.
I'm going to quote something I heard the masterful Hugo Byron say on an ESL broadcast the other day. GG go next. I don't know how you lose that one. Like that's a 2v4 situation. I sort of set it up as like, they're finally going to get off to a good start. And yeah, they just get battered and it's painful. Bit of a missed smoke there. That is not where that's supposed to land. So it might be a slight gap for them to play with. While already some Die Young is going to be kicking things off on to Nasty.
Balance gets winged by one of the Deeks, but still about 50% HP. 3 players poised just outside of IV. Smoke has been deployed, covers their right-hand side. Waiting to see if Apeks maybe go for a speculative peek. Now that the smoke on the right is beginning to fade, they throw in another one. Open up business towards the site. More damage inflicted, but the MAC-10's now getting dangerously close. And Chopper sprays down Groose, AK just behind him, neutralizing the second player. And Marcelios, last man standing, although 3 of these Spirit players are hemorrhaging. A chance of bleeding to death if they're not careful, or just getting straight up blown up by the bomb. it's unlikely that Marcelios can really put too many of these low players down, and Spirit will be happy enough to just dip out. It's only one saved gun. It is a scout, which could prove costly, but all things considered, they're in great shape, and they're loving how this map has started.
Yeah, I don't think they needed to be any more pumped up than they were after the last one. This is the thing. I think the only team that they might be even slightly worried about in this whole tournament is probably going to be Gambit. I think that should be a decent match. Maybe Nemiga, because Nemiga are pretty good when it comes to domestic matchups. Even with a stand-in or two, I think the CIS players will have played against each other so many times now with all the CIS minors in the past, the RMR events that have been coming up, that these three teams are almost in a loop of like basically trying to challenge what is Na'Vi. And I guess VP, as of recent times, VP have looked very, very good. The addition of Yakinda, probably one of the best bits of business I think we've seen in a while from the CIS region. So exciting stuff there, looking to challenge much, much more. And you mentioned that scout. We'll see what it can do here. The answer, well, a tag. Not quite what we were hoping for if it was going to be a game changer.
Not much room for error with the scout. Is that either a headshot or bust, or you need at least players with the pistols to finish off the softened target. They gamble stacked B. It is a gamble that does not pay off. It's just USPs and Deagle, so it's not the end of the world. Apeks will have a buy into the next. Maybe can take some of these guns away. 2 MAC-10s, though. Mia and Chopper, you better believe, are licking their lips and looking to get up close. And maybe not. Maybe Chopper's just going to snipe away Dennis with the MAC-10. Decides better of it. He's like, this is way too awkward. Let me switch to my pistol.
Deserve that.
And Dennis puts him off. Indeed, he did deserve that, to be fair. To have the audacity to try and pick someone off with a MAC-10. It is the expendable weapon, though, so he goes down. But Magic has lost a rifle. And they may very well lose out as a result of that. I don't think Mia can go and retrieve that gun. So actually, that is quite costly in the end. Not that it's going to break the bank of Spirit, but Apeks getting small victories. Now with this double up, though, Tom, this is a hefty investment.
Yeah, if anything, that MAC-10 actually being saved, I think could be more of a detriment to Apeks than anything else, because firstly, it's on Chopper. They've switched it to Chopper because I think they basically got this idea of this man's probably going to do something a little bit crazy, so we'll see. But it also means that the likelihood is we're going to see a fast-paced execution at some point in this round. Now, both AWPs don't have head armor. Jacob also doesn't have head armor, and they have no utility to deny this in terms of incendiaries, for example, to slow them down, or HEs to tag them up. So any sort of fast-paced play in this round is going to be pretty brutal.
I don't have to deal with the initial aggression, but it can still explode very quickly. Tons of smokes, flashes, mollies at the disposal of Spirit. Apeks eagerly waiting and anticipating that push without a kit. They have to really hold this. There's not going to be much hope of backing away. Molotov perfectly placed. Smoke goes down straight afterwards, though. In tandem from a teammate. I think that was Jacob that tossed it in from around the E-box. 45 seconds. Apeks have done a good job of keeping Spirit at arm's reach. But you always feel like that light switch or the kill switch is about to get flicked. And once it switches on, Apeks may just be bulldozed. Good timing from Gross, who gets up close with the M4. Excellent hold, but Jacob whiffs out his opportunity. Although he does bucket loads of damage, it's not enough to yield many kills. A 1-for-1 trade, albeit Mia, Sunbayon and Magic's all struggling. And I disbalance, the full healthy member has now been alleviated courtesy of Dennis, who misses the second shot. And Magic's will punish him. Goes in for more, lands more kills. It's a 4K for the youngster. And with 8 seconds to spare, they have enough time for the bomb plant. And Gross has now shown his hand. 34 HP remains for him. AK picked up. Both players are low, but Mia still connects the dots. And Spirit get across to a 4-0 lead.
This was so sick as well, especially considering Magic's was low. Obviously, there was a few whiff shots here and there, but I like the way that he uses the elevation to make the battle awkward for pretty much both AWPers in this different situation. And yeah, the depth of Spirit showing once again. There isn't a player on this team that can't clutch out a round. Obviously, Magic's is pretty well known for it at this point. I just balance going for the wall bang into connector, and this buy coming out from Apeks is not a particularly good one. Mag 7 for Jacob. Of course, loss bonus is maximized, so they can afford to spend a little bit more into this one. I'd be intrigued to see if they go back to that double AWP setup, though, because as said, like, sure, I think the AWP still had some impact in the last round, but it was evident from the get-go that Team Spirit were going to do something pacey when it came down to it, and they just exploded onto that A site. And although Dennis got a kill or two throughout that, eventually I think it came as his downfall. Execution in, Nasty with the dig, and actually he's combined with Dennis. A double kill for the Swede and leaving Chopper alone. He's got a hell of a lot of time to play with, but no bomb, and all of his team are dead.
Oh man, that flash into ramp could not have been better placed and better time from Apeks. It landed on all 4 players, and now looking to maybe push the smoke. Decides better of that, which certainly was the correct decision from Gross. They have the flank in effect. Jacob has spotted the player, but only has a USP. Nearly cost him his life. If he has an M4, the round is done. But his other option was the Mag 7. He's at least keeping Chopper interested, wasting valuable time, and now Chopper just goes in aggressively. Knows a player could be down on the train, getting 1. 8 HP remains. Jacob up next to the plate. May very well be subsided if he's not careful. Another player at the back of the site is Dennis. Although Spirit have lost, they take 3 players down with them, so at least keeping that money relatively low after this buy. But Apeks striking again, finally get themselves around.
Yeah, nice little crossfire setup they ended up having, and walking into the blender a little bit there, Spirit. But the issue is, even still, they've got no trouble buying. Even with an AWP behind them, they're going to be in a pretty good position. But Apeks have at least given themselves a bit of a springboard to start off this CT side. Of course, we've spoken recently about maps sort of becoming a little bit more T-sided in the online era. Train, though, it still favors the CT side. I think it's still probably the most CT-sided map in the entire pool at the moment. So Apeks going to be wanting to look at least getting like 8-9 rounds from this point onwards, and starting to get out of the realms of possibility if they lose anything more.
And when they have typically prioritized going for those double AWPs, it puts a lot more of a strain on their economy. So these are rounds they desperately need to hold on to, and clearly with the flashes, although they were good in the opening few moments, have now cost them dearly. Because they had flashes, but they didn't follow up on that promise. They committed, and then they got pummeled. Dennis at least puts it back into a 3-on-3. A low Mia and Magix could be on the chopping block. Dennis goes in for another one. Idis balanced, though, traded out just beforehand. Now the remaining Ts are exceptionally low. That incendiary could very well finish off the life. And Jacob goes in, and Magix was stuck on the ladder. Great hold from Apeks in the end. But again, it's at the cost of 3 lives. And again, with a post plant, this should be another buy for Spirit.
Yeah, they give themselves the finances, but I'm glad to see like Apeks starting to actually battle and brawl versus Spirit. In the last map, it wasn't really close in a lot of the rounds. Like, it was just them getting absolutely dominated. Sure, I do expect them to do better when it comes to the CT side of Train, but at the same time, like, especially with a newer team, like getting these rotations correct, even just having your positions down to a T, like you have to remember again, like Nasty's on trial and you've got Jacob coming in. Like, you're not just filling the gaps of the previous 2 players when you're bringing in a star player like Jacob. So it's going to have to have been some movement. Fantastic openers from Jacob as well. Seemingly gaining in confidence. We saw a couple of shakier shots. Magix, man, this kid is so good at Counter-Strike. His rise to fame when it comes to Team Spirit seems almost ridiculous. Like, the amount of time he's been playing for them now, I think is longer than he's played for any other team competitively. So, spent most of his career here. Seems like he's been here pretty much the whole time. But he needs an ace. He only got 1 kill. The rest went Jacob and Nasty's way, and a third looks inevitable, but I'm never going to doubt this man.
Unfortunately, though, he walks into Jacob, who is shining bright with a 4K. And keep in mind that Spirit, on a pretty low economy, did force up. So this should be an eco, and this should be a good opportunity for Apeks to use that 4K from Jacob, which you're witnessing right now on the screen, to push them back into this game, back into this half, and build up their economy alongside it. You can see everybody apart from Dennis is pretty healthy for cash. Spirit with some deagles have no utility. So 9 out of 10 times, Tom, this should be going the way of Apeks, but what we've learned over the duration of the last couple of days is When there's Deagles in the hands of Spirit, anything is possible. Mia, though, has been quelled by Jacob, who continues to churn out the frags.
I do worry if in a future round Team Spirit go for a faster B-site push, how they're actually going to cope. Because thinking back to Dust 2, like Dust 2, sure, the B-site, the retake's pretty hard, but even if you think about the few A-site retakes that were attempted by Apeks, they didn't even come close, not even once. So I do wonder if for Spirit, just getting a bomb plant might even be enough to convert them around. I'm sure we've already seen one retake, but again, like Nasty's one of those players where it's a bit peculiar for me because he seems like he should be in an aggressive role, and yet they seem to put him in every single anchor role, which I don't know. With the style that he seems to play Counter-Strike, I'm not sure that's the right fit.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? And I think when the experience comes out, and it's something that Apeks are talking about from Jacob's perspective in one of the pre-game interviews, or actually no, it's post-game, I believe, when asked, you know, what can you do to go up the ranks in tier 2 to tier 1, is to get that experience, to kind of be on the same page. Balance though, drills Groose through the wall. It's an angle that is used pretty often, but it very rarely connects. And he goes in for a second as well, Tom. He's still hungry for frags. He finally has been put down and silenced as Jacob now shows his hand. Double spray up to 13 and 4 as we're only in the 9th round. Jacob is trying to do this single-handedly. Mia using that chaos, though, to create a bit of an opening and to try and push through it. There's still plenty of time left, albeit with a bomb drop back towards T-Spawn.
Seems like this is a complete swing round. Like the opening kills coming up for Disbalance. Jacob then with a double pushing up Pop. I do wonder if there is going to be another twist and turn, though. With Mir's position being relatively unknown, it's all going to come down to timing. Now, it seems like Jacob is going to be holding the angle, and Mir just wants somebody to push into his crosshair. But by the looks of it, nobody on this Apeks side is budging an inch. And I don't think you're going to check Jacob's position. Like, being all the way over to that left-hand side. Oh, never mind, he does, but he doesn't win the duel nonetheless. The Norwegian absolutely killing it in this map so far. And Magic's again, 25 seconds. Probably just going to end up saving this AWP. It would sort of make their money a little bit disjointed, but he has so little time to get anything done.
Little time and multiple adversaries to deal with. And Jacob not called upon to clean up the round. Dennis was there to lend him a helping hand. Apeks actually take the lead. And this was a 4-0 lead at that. So that's 5 rounds in a row now, Tom. And this has kind of snuck up on us. It feels like this has come out of nowhere. It felt like this was Spirit just going to go through the gears. We mentioned that Train should, on paper, be a much more difficult affair for Apeks. But fair play to them. They are really standing up here and giving a real good go of it.
Oh, Dennis. Starting to gain in confidence, and it's almost weird. They've started sort of playing Jacob as like a rotational rifler. Like, he's being allowed to go wherever he wants, sort of like you would see with maybe a Kenny, like going for aggressive peaks with his AWP. They've just gone, Jacob, you know what, you're killing it. Just start pushing around different portions of the map and taking fights. And hey, I don't know if that's a sustainable way to play Counter-Strike, but at the same time, in this map, I'm completely fine with it, because the last one they got absolutely bodied, and Jacob seems to be performing to a very high standard. The only thing that worries me a bit is to keep up this level of momentum is very, very difficult. Like, you're looking at 30 plus kills easily with how he's been going so far. But you never know, maybe another man will step up, take a leaf out of his book. Groose has now picked up a tasty little double. Disbalance will still manage to get one, and Magic's, he never seems to be out of these rounds. He's retrieved an AK as well. Make that an AWP. Somehow this now looks possible. A missed shot, though, could be the end of it.
Yeah, it feels like that possibility escaped when the shot went past the head. And now 25 seconds. Disbalance, who wished he had the AWP that was in the hands of Magic's, has to deal with the pocket rocket of the Deagle instead. And Groose at range with the M4 puts him down. Apeks 6 rounds in a row. I do agree, though, Tom, with the sentiment that It's all well and good having Jacob just suddenly tee off and just go ham with this very aggressive style, unpredictable style. But you feel at some point Spirit have enough experience and enough wherewithal to make the adaptations and the evolutions that they feel necessary. I wouldn't be surprised if they conceded this round, for example, or maybe, you know, when they go into their next rifle to call a tactical timeout and figure out what's going on. Iris Balance gets flashed multiple times, misses the shot, but no early casualties on either team.
Jacob once again. They should expect it at this point, and it's a close battle, but it's one that Mir eventually wins. He's had a quiet start to this game, but nonetheless, he's done what he's needed to in this round. And now we get to see how they cope with going a man down, because they've been getting a lot of entries over the last few rounds, a lot of picks, excluding maybe an AWP or two coming up from Iris Balance. The reaction seems to be to almost rotate away from the A site, setting up a Molotov as they go through the connector, leaving one player here. Mir actually almost dies to that. A spread of even one tick would be enough to kill him, but he's confident enough. And they don't have a smoke, so there's nothing they could do anyway.
Yeah, they need entries. And if Chopper could show his presence over on B, maybe that will keep them interested. They've got 3 players over here, by the way, but because we don't see a push come out of B site, and instead it's outside of A, they quickly wrap all those B players towards Ivy to bolster up the A defenses. Dennis taking point with his AWP, playing aggressively. They're all clumped up towards the CT side of Ivy. Some awkward positions. Will be unorthodox spots as well. 2 kills go down. It's post-plant now. Mir shows his hand with the AWP. He was that player that nearly burned to a crisp on 4 HP in main. And he needs to survive long enough to allow Chopper to make that long rotation back. He was the player that was flirting with the idea of B. Now Mir gets the timing, spots the player just alongside the smoke. He knows where the last player is in the smoke, but he's gone for the full defuse. Marcelios is holding on to it, and the Glock's not going to deal with him. And Chopper team kills Mir? What the hell's going on?
He spammed the smoke, and there must have been a stray bullet, so they don't even get to hold on to the AWP. That has gone very badly wrong for Team Spirit, and you have to feel for Mir. He got 3 kills, 2 of them of which on 4 HP. I think Mir was actually going to try and get the knife because, well, an AWP and a Glock are not ideal for spamming in these sort of situations. And, well, the streak continues. Apeks carry on train, and wow, the AWP's now gone. Jacob, he wants revenge, fighting versus Mir again, and it has been a duel he's been winning the majority of the time. Continues that fight forward. Nade lands onto Iris Balance as well. Dennis has actually risen up and joined the party as well. 12 and 6. Make that 13. Things are starting to fall apart here for Spirit.
This is exactly why I was expecting to see a tactical timeout deployed. I mean, I know that CIS region teams often just love to get through games without calling any of those tactical timeouts, but especially after losing a round like that and having the team kill come in, I feel like that was almost a perfect moment to just sort of pump the brakes. Jacob, different angle, same result. 2 kills carved out. He will lose his life, but he's done his job. And now we'll look to the rest of his teammates to bring it home. Magic though through the flashbang. There's some Young tosses in, great spray transfer, takes down 2, and suddenly it's back into an even affair. There's enough time for Spirit to make a real go of this. Damage inflicted from both Nasty and some Young, but Marcelios up in heaven will smite down upon Magix, leaving some Young to try and clutch this out with his 36 HP. He does have control of the bomb, and I think he wanted to try and snake his way to B, which would have made it a pretty interesting round, but Nasty was a step ahead.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that Nasty's actually had to do in a while. Like, going into this round, he had $30,000, and that was only his 4th kill of the game, but hey, there's other players stepping up. I don't think it's really going to be needed. And again, a clutch situation that Team Spirit bring close back to a 2v2 after the initial picks, but they are continuing to lose these rounds. It's a result I wasn't really expecting, but Apeks are doing very, very well on this CT side. Lots of players spotted, though. The pistol's running through. Nasty with the double spray down, and Dennis still trying to hold on to the upper portions of the map. He's allowed for the rotations to come in, and Chopper, he needs a headshot almost instantly. It's not going to happen. A 4-man cleanup. Apeks now 9 and 4 in the lead, and, well, I have to say I did not expect this scoreline.
No, I'm right,
9 in a
right
row.
alongside you. Yeah, 9 in a row. It was a 4-0 lead, and Spirit's still refusing to call the timeout. That detox period, perhaps, that they need. We'll see, though. Maybe they feel like they've been on the cusp of something special a few rounds. They still have supreme confidence in these T-half potentials. They can get a 9-6 again. I echo your sentiments, Tom. You know, momentum-wise, it doesn't look good for Spirit, but if they can get 5 or 6 rounds, that's a pretty decent T-half. And you know this T-half's going to be good. The spray transfer from Sundar Young goes in from Jacob, transfers across to the head of Gross, and just like that, A-side is very much open for business, but Dennis is looking to close the doors and lock it down again. Idis Balance, though, comes back in with an AWP-on-AWP action. Marcelios, the worst side of that trade. Magix, we've seen him so many times show his hands outside of Ivy, and this time Dennis was just completely overwhelmed. Nasty, the man with a point to prove, trying to get into the Apeks roster permanently, has taken down 2. Sundar Young on 1 HP. Needs to be very careful where he treads. This round's not done just yet, Tom.
Yeah, a 1 versus 4 situation that he's made look more than possible, especially with how low one of his opponents currently sits. The AWP also in the hands of Chopper could actually end up being a bit of a detriment for him. If he misses a shot, it could give away the kill that actually loses it, but unfortunately for Nasty, he's going to walk straight out into the angle. So a 5th created. That's now a couple of times that we've seen situations that there's no way a player should be getting 2 kills. Like we saw it from Magix earlier with the spray transfer. We've now had it with Sundar Young. We've mentioned it time and time again that this Team Spirit roster, when it comes to the depth of talent, even just in terms of individual skill, it is off the charts. And, well, the in-game leader for the squad showing that he can roll with the best of them. Still, 10 rounds for Apeks after being 4-0 down. That would be pretty impressive. Even the 9 they've managed to gather up, I think, is a good showing from them. The T side of this map, though, Vince, can be a very, very tough task for any roster.
Absolutely. And that's what Spirit have to have in the back of their minds. That, like, yeah, this has been disappointing. This could have been a landslide half. We had everything built up foundations-wise. But you still get 5 or 6 rounds. The pressure is on Apeks. Make no mistake. Already a map down. After a bit of a blitzkrieg of a first map. Looking for the boost up. Can see nothing. Gross going in for the wide swing. But Mia, the man that dropped 23 kills in the first map, showing why. With pixel perfect aim. Marcelios won't miss out on his chance. Sundar Young tosses in the smoke. Will not anticipate this push. Or actually he does. I'm sorry for doubting you, Sundar Young. Your brain far bigger than mine. And Spirit now, a player to the good, have 40 seconds to try and capitalize on it.
And luckily, the players they do have remaining have been the ones that have been dragging this home. Jacob and Dennis, the experience in this roster. While the young gun of Marcelios looking to style the second flick is ridiculous and it's left onto Idis Balance. However, he does one just the same. It's left all onto Dennis. He doesn't know he's behind him, though. This could all be over. Coming in from behind, it would have needed to be a wrist breaker to hit that final shot. And it is going to end with a 10th going the way of Apeks. A fantastic comeback from 4-0 down. The question is, can they convert their opponent's map choice?
How hard can you go? 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 How hard can you go when the beat drop? How hard can you go? How hard can you go? How hard can you? How hard can you go when the beat drop? How hard can you go? 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 How hard can you? How hard can you? How hard can you? How hard can you go? How hard can you go when the beat drop?
Upon us, hear the roaring of footsteps marching on, for the snake and the charmer couldn't change.
Apeks proving they will not go quietly into the night. They double up their round tally from Dust 2 on Team Spirit's choice of train. Certainly shocking many of us in the process. Spirit, though, now move across to the CT side. And as we said before, Tom, many teams have struggled to break down this defense of Spirit in the past. Apeks have had a very good result, though. Win ratio when it comes to pistol rounds in this best of 3. Can they go one better? Chopper catches Groose, jumping around, and executes him down. That's the best possible start they could have hoped for.
Not ideal. And this bait and switch in towards A main as well is going to make things relatively difficult. Although timing could work out. Young is actually just trying to bait them into Mir at this point. Hasn't had a game anywhere near the same as Dust 2, but he starts things off converting a second kill in this pistol round, leaving Dennis very low, and then has Young to back him up. A really nice pistol setup coming out of Spirit. And well, now we need to see a 2v4, just as we did earlier. Bear in mind that Spirit did take that first pistol, even though it seems to feel like Apeks may have actually won it. Maybe they can return, Vince.
It's a good point, actually, yeah. Almost an identical position, wasn't it? 2v4, T's in an awkward spot, seemingly like an impossible position to be in, but they somehow made it work. And I thought that back-breaking position would be untenable for Apeks to recover from. Dennis and Nasty, do you have it within you? First kill on this encounter does go the way of the T's. Will it be a second? Dennis gets it done. No, he doesn't. Magic's on 1 HP survives, but then Dennis spins around with a P250 and gets that second. And it seems like Lightning may be striking twice. Iris balance with 10 seconds have to try and fend them both off. They're both low, but Nasty spins around. And now it's Apeks' turn to bask in the sunlight of the 2v4.
I guess balance is restored in a sense, but how? This was more ridiculous because I feel like there was less time. Like, there was so many situations there. I was like, okay, well, if they just wait for them to go for a plant here, they win. Like, they win easily because there's such little time on the clock that eventually they'll have to commit for it. But no, Spirit just kept taking fights. Even in that 1 versus 2, I feel like I disbalanced. You wait for them to plant, there's no way that one of them isn't dying there. But you know what? They've actually forced with a triple scout. Something that you don't see very regularly, but Train is definitely somewhere it could work. Chopper, also getting himself a FAMAS, has managed to get the opening pick. However, they don't have much for this after plant situation. They also don't have a kit.
Yeah, the triple scout can definitely work on Train. Post plant, though, I'm not so sold on that idea. When you actually have to pressure into crossfires, into MAC-10s, it typically will not work well for you. And Apeks now showing why. Getting up close with their aggression. Magix may be able to get the no-scope kill. Nicely done. But the lack of kit, as you highlighted, means that this round is already done. This is a foregone conclusion. Apeks will have a 12-5 lead in Spirit's economy. If they can save this scout, it's one thing, but unlikely they'll have anything to go alongside with it. So, I'm somewhat speechless, Tom. I mean, this has been such a drastic turnaround. Massive credit to Apeks. Like, the ability to pull this back out of the fire after getting wrecked in the first map, then going 4-0 down. I have so much respect for this tenacity.
Yeah, evidently, Train is a map that they need to be bringing into their map pool, because I would say this is definitely the most impressive performance we've seen from them throughout this entire tournament. Like, this has been dominant. I keep waiting for it to stop, almost, if that makes any sense. Like, I'm sat here going, okay, well, now Team Spirit are going to do something. And I thought the pistol was going to be it. I was like, okay, going into the CT side, you basically won the pistol, and then they threw it away just as Apeks did. They'll have to have an even more impressive comeback now. And after losing the Force Buy and basically having to wait till round number 19 before they get a proper purchase, they're only going to have like wiggle room of a couple of rounds from this point onwards.
It's been a scrappy round so far, albeit in the post-plant. USP rattling off. He wishes he had a P250. He wishes he had anything apart from the default pistol in that position. But Chopper's CZ doesn't fare too much better. Rose passes a bullet between his eyes. Apeks will land the 13-5 as expected. But if Mia can hold an AK, not too shabby. We've seen Spirit come back from these deficits before. It's more the nature and how Apeks, their aggression and their aim has really significantly stepped up quite a few rankings, though. That will be a cause for concern. And at this stage now, Tom, I mean, Spirit have no more room for error. Like, they've got to be pretty much flawless from here on out.
Yeah, for sure. And well, the other thing to mention as well, the Dennis is currently just playing out of his mind. 23-8 while in-game leading a map that we haven't seen them win over the last 3 months. Like, it doesn't really get much better than that. And individually, from what we've seen so far this tournament, I don't think there's been a map where he's been anywhere near this good, maybe even in the history of the entire roster. Like, this is one of the best performances we've seen from him. Change, however, is now the double AWP setup. And it's going to be Groose hitting the deck after the first AWP finds a kill. Now, the change up to the B side is actually quite intelligent because they know chances are iDisbalance will have an AWP as well. So if they can get an after plant, they might have a chance here. The problem is losing a second man to that secondary AWP, the third likely to fall as well. And this is where this team becomes truly devastating. Chopper not going to react to the plant. He'll allow the money to go down on the other side, and iDisbalance is just styling on them here. 4 kills for him. They all peek him one by one, and it's all too easy for Spirit to take their first round on this CT side.
If you want to learn how to play the AWP perfectly in positions like that, go watch this round multiple times from iDisbalance. The way that he was taking picks, relocating, pick, relocate. Never predictable, never giving them a chance to get back in the round. Constantly mixing it up. Look at this. Even in the replay, you see all his kills from different positions until the end when he knows that he has the nuts angle and there's only one player left for Apeks. So beautifully done from iDisbalance and why he remains one of the better AWPers on the planet when he's feeling it. Apeks now been pushed back into a Tech 9. Still a great buy, all things considered, and definitely enough threats that Spirit cannot take their eyes off the ball. They're at least seeing now, Tom, that economy a little bit more vulnerable. The comeback may be doable.
Yeah, for sure. I am still starting to sit here and go, like, did Team Spirit need to get better at picking maps? Because the maps they've not chosen so far in this tournament, they've lost 7 rounds. And the maps that they have chosen, one went to overtime and the other one they're currently losing 13-6. And iDisbalance, we sort of praised him so much in the last round, but this is the other side of the coin. Like, a shot that he should be hitting all day long, and it gives a lot of space to Dennis to now get into this secondary smoke into the same angle. But I think Chopper may have heard Dennis. I think he has a good idea that he's already pushed far into this site, but they've got to be careful. Chopper, smart with his positioning. That's the danger man gone. Now they deal with the bomb as well, and although this looked good for Apeks, it's quickly fallen apart.
Yeah, has been laid down, riddled with bullets from the approach is nasty, and that's why I stress that when he's feeling it, he's one of the best AWPs on the planet, because you saw the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in these last 2 rounds. He can go from being an absolute monster to suddenly missing a shot that he should be landing pretty much every single day, multiple times, and it puts his team in an awkward spot. But they have more than enough ability, though, Tom, to back him up and make sure that any of those missed shots aren't punished too heavily. Now Apeks do go back into a half-buy scenario. Nothing too serious. Spirit will be taking the initiative, playing aggressively. Mia does get tagged by that Molotov. That'll be a sound cue for Jacob. He slowed down a little bit in these last few rounds, and that was something you raised. What happens if he does go off the boil? Is there another player to step up to the plate? In terms of this round, it's unlikely with just pistols, but even with a flashbang, they still spray through and perforate both Gross and Nasty, leaving Dennis the other side of the map. As you said, though, Tom, he is having such a stellar performance. 128 ADR with 24 kills. You could not ask more of the man.
Well, yeah, as I said, like there's been a few performances where like he's had like a 1.3 or something like that, but this would be a much better performance. A couple of D kills, and any round he just seems to be dangerous. This is looking like a vintage performance from him, and I think that's been obviously some of the problems of him in-game leading. It's something that many people, I know Frankie brought up on the desk as well, that when you have someone of his caliber of player, be it maybe not being at the top level for a while now, but still having the skill at least to take over games, do you want that person being in your in-game leader role? Answer, probably not. So the fact that he's being able to style a little bit here, the problem I have is that the chance that he might get weighed down a little bit, because calling when it comes to the T side is going to be far more important, and Mir and Magic's already 20 seconds into the round have given them a 5-on-3.
Pretty brutal change of events, isn't it? They've lost that key man. The hitman of Dennis. Been sent packing. Marcelios, though, decides to open his account with the AK. Keeping the CTs honest. Good spray down from Sundai Young. Nearly picking up the kill into Nasty. Goes one bet run to Marcelios. Knows a player was spotted in Pop Dog. Does finalize with his second frag in quick succession. And now Jacob, the man that at one point on the CT side was looking like he was immortal, catches his chopper in midair, but then gets punished straight away afterwards. And it seems to me that Apeks, they're slowing down a little bit, Tom.
Yeah, as said, like the manner they were playing almost sort of mimics what we're seeing at the moment from Team Spirit, where you had Jacob being very aggressive, taking a lot of fights around A main, similar to what we're seeing from Mir. It's almost a flip of the roles. And then you also had a lot of AWP shots coming through from Dennis. Now, he's not going to be able to play the AWP almost at all when it comes to the T side. And then we sort of question, is he going to have the same level of impact while he's also trying to in-game lead? So it's probably not going to get any easier for them here. The nades also doing a ridiculous amount of damage. But Dennis with the Deeg seemingly hasn't changed too much just yet. Nasty as well has a chance with the AWPs in play especially. This could become a little bit awkward. They're trying to defend Magics, but eventually runs out of ammo. One AWP drop to the deck. However, they should be able to retrieve it. Or maybe not. Yeah, they do. Okay. Dropper gets in the last second. So 13 to 10. Weaponry kept. Money building. And this is where we need to see either Marcelios start getting some openers with that AWP, or do the painful thing, which he probably won't enjoy, which is just give it to Dennis. He's been so good with it so far.
Absolutely. And that may be a call that Dennis needs to make. You know, if he's feeling it that much, do you prioritize your own performance, knowing that that's what's best for the team, even if it can hurt the confidence a little bit of your AWPer? Does he even want it? Does he feel like he can offer more with the mobility of the AK? These are certainly questions that will be bouncing back and forth in the minds of Apeks. I was mentioning before about how I expected to see Spirit call a timeout. Well, I think Apeks are reaching that point as well themselves. If they're unsuccessful in this round, they need to change things up. Mia long-range incursion. That skirmish goes in favor of Dennis, though. That'll keep players over on the A site. In actual fact, no Spirit have gambled this fully. They'll be stacking all their players over on B. They've still got Magic's watching towards main from Connector, but he's easily bypassed by Ivy, and they must realize it's a very real possibility that the T's are already pushed in.
And Mir continues to have what is a pretty rough game for his standards. There have been a few duels now which I'm out and out expect him to win. Of course, it was a great shot for Dennis to recover, but normally someone like Mir doesn't give you that chance. Like, you don't get the recovery period. Like, you're already dead before you can even realize. 35 seconds up on the clock. You mentioned a B stack. Well, they've rotated it. They're all on A. Every single member of this Spirit team waiting for this push to come in. They've got it spot on. Can they hold on with the jewels? It looks like they can. The time ticking down, but Cruz, he goes huge. He finds a gap in the defense and manages to get a multi-frag. Spirit, they let things slip even though the read was spot on, and a much needed round comes up for the side of Apeks.
And it was some great utility. You saw there that Gross could basically divide and conquer them because of a smoke on Ivy, forced a really awkward angle. And the second player he got with the AWP, I feel like he must have assumed that he was safe, that he was being covered from multiple angles. So it's that chaos that was created from just unrelenting aggression. And now, even though Spirit were off to a great turnaround, 5 rounds in a row, that's always the danger of being at such a large deficit. You make one mistake, or Apeks just managed to connect the dots and make the perfect read, and suddenly you're in a really bad position again. Their economy in the toilet. Only the one kit. Good flashbang. Some Die Young presses behind it. El Marcelios is next up to the plate. Dennis gets one in return. But that trade is not worthwhile for Apeks. They need to try and make the most of it. As Nasty looking to push some aggression through Ivy. But he needs to tread carefully because Magix is there waiting with the AWP.
Again, a switch up in setups. Mir, this time, he's not going to lose that duel twice. Again, timing going to be everything here. Magic seems to continuously having to turn back, which I don't really like. I feel like if you have a player further aggressive than he shouldn't be turning around. Like, Ivy is one of the danger points of this map, and it's been a position that Apeks have been more than happy to press down on. Dennis, he's going to need to break his 30 bomb. He's going to get anything here, but Magix continues. He's been very good in this map, and eventually he will close this round. A triple kill for him. Gets to 25 kills of his own. I think because of the manner of which this game has been going, like heavily in favor of Apeks for the majority, we kind of forget how much impact this man actually had, even in considering when they were losing rounds. He was still getting multi-frag, still putting up numbers. Now that CT side AWP is starting to really shine through. And the funny thing is, both secondary AWPs for both teams have been the better of the two.
Indeed they have. Won't be any AWPs for Apeks available this round, though, as they did go in for a half-buy rush, and it's the two AWPs that are just completely silencing them. Jacob with a nice one dig, but that will be the only bit of success that Apeks can really enjoy. It is at least fast. They get themselves right back into a rifle. But, I mean, this is another reason why Spirit is such a deadly team, that anyone on this roster on their day can perform. To put it in context, sure, it was a very one-sided map on Dust 2. Magic's actually bottom fragged. He had 14 kills. Now he's by far and away at the top. And it's the two players that did really well on Dust 2, Idis Balance and Mia, that have been a little bit lackluster in parts. So, even though a couple players may be a little bit quiet, they have more than enough firepower to step up to the plate. Chopper's going to go in for one. Stun Die Young now spraying through, but of an off timing of the push. Nearly catches Spirit off guard, but they still hold on. And they push Apeks back again.
Yeah, I am wondering where that pause is. I think you're right. Both teams have been almost hesitant, it seems. Like they're on a bit of a schedule, and there we go. I will say I still think this is a little bit late. Like, you've now allowed a huge amount of momentum to be built up. Okay. Boris is thought to come from the words glorious in battle. I agree. I think that is fitting. I don't know how many 17-year-olds were glorious in battle in the past, but obviously video games make things a little bit less risky. Don't know how any of us would do in a real battle. I think my pot belly might come as a little bit of a problem.
There's a real battle taking shape here, though, Tom. This has been the close affair that we may be expecting more so on Dust 2. We finally got it, though. I'm glad that we've had a real map to sink our teeth into. But can Apeks continue to just grind out the rounds? Can they take us to at least overtime? It's looking unlikely for this, but they did call the timeout. Maybe more designed for the next round. Bait and switch has been deployed. But honestly, Spirit coming out worse for wear in that one. Midas Balance takes a chunky shot down to 41, and Chopper wasn't able to really make the most of that. So a bit of a stalemate. May very well favor the CTs, though, because Apeks have put a lot of their presence and pressure over here. Not much utility and all that. HG has shredded them.
That's ridiculous. That's caught nearly every single member of the team. I think it's only Dennis who manages to escape that one. Still a little bit of trade damage. A bit of frustration starting to creep in as well. I don't think that's a wallbang that's going to be catching anybody anytime soon. Nonetheless, Groose, he's been patiently waiting. Some Dayung starting to get aggressive around this angle. There's a chance for the dig. Oh, the flash. It actually goes past him, but he gets away with it. The rest of the team now looking to run through, but Chopper so good of finding those picks and maneuvering himself into another position. They are going to get the bomb down at least, and after plant with Jacob still holding a rifle, but with 6 HP, I'm not sure how much they can really expect him to do. In fact, that nade might be enough. He's down to 4. It catches him for 2. The second one, he's dead for sure. The rifle's gone. Marcelio's trying to get aggressive with the Tech 9, but he's surrounded. And while Dennis, this would have to be one for the ages. Not going to be happening. 14-14 from such a dominant position. We see everything dwindle now for Apeks. And whilst Spirit might be about to do it again, remember yesterday, again, they struggled versus the Swedes, but eventually they were the ones that got the 2-0.
Yeah, they did it in overtime on Nuke, as you've discussed a few times. So we know that, I mean, we've seen Spirit a ton of times against some of the best teams in the world, and they're a very resilient bunch of players. So even at 13-5, I think I said, we've seen them come back from deficits like this in the past multiple times. This is why I knew the CT side would be a rock for Spirit, and so far it's living up to that mantle. Apeks losing the first player of Marcelios, who continues to struggle with the AWP on this T side. In actual fact, the AWP picked up by Dennis here, so maybe he can use it. You did ask the question, he posed it. At what point does he take it primarily? We've reached that stage, but is it too little too late? Chopper taking damage, but still alive. 2 players from Apeks over on Ivy, but with Mia's aggression taking shape, it's a lot of intel that Spirit have picked up for themselves.
He's done this a few times, although I feel like a lot of the time teams will remember if they're punished rather than if they succeed. So they're not actually going to be ready for this, even though he did the exact same play just a round ago. He's waiting for the bomb. I love this. Like, he knows that there's probably going to be players around Ivy at this point, but chances are you're not going to take the bomb in that direction. And even if you do, he's going to be ready to get you the second you turn around. Now, it does seem like Dennis is actually pretty well prepared for anybody to be pushing up. Is he going to check the close angle? No, he's not. And actually, Mir's waiting to see if there's anyone else. There's only 35 seconds left. This is going to be the bomb dropped on the deck as he watches them slowly rotate towards B. This is just torture. The remaining 2 players, they've gone, guys, we've got the B site. It's under our control. And Dennis has left the bomb in no man's land. This is 15 guaranteed. There is no way they pull this round back.
Yeah, not with this time. It was such a beautiful play by Mia. It's exquisite, honestly. Wasting more time. As you said, his teammates were already on B site. It made them spend another 5-10 seconds just to re-rotate back again. Bomb dropped down in an awkward position. That was the round over. Kind of a masterclass of how to lurk and how to flank by Mia. Love to watch that. And now Apeks, who had such a vast lead at one stage, potentially the last round of this best of 3. And they have a Galil in the hands of Marcelios. Jacob may be able to get his hands on an AK. Actually decides to go for a secondary Galil so he can supply more utility. And this could be it, Tom. And what a bitter pill to swallow this would be after such a huge lead against Spirit and a real chance at taking us to a 3rd.
Well, that's the thing. I think both times we've now watched Spirit play, they've deserved to lose a map. I don't even think that's arguable. Like, you look at Floscola yesterday, taking them to overtime. And today, if anything, Apeks 13-5 up and not being able to close out on the T side. Of course, again, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's a new team. There's work to be done. At the same time, they're still in this. If they can somehow manage to convert this round, but Sunday, good position, but an uncharacteristic whiff. Been good so far. Mir, he's been behind them every single time. This time Dennis is ready, but it doesn't mean he wins the duel. And Chopper's already found another one. You can see Jacob looking to try and hunt him down, but he fails. Mir, I think he's gone from 13 and 16 to 22 and 16 over the last few rounds. He has been unstoppable. And now it's left all on to Marcelios. He's right down the bottom of the barrel at the moment for Apeks, needing a 1v4 clutch. The bomb's being defused. There's nothing he can do here. In Spirit, they make the comeback happen. 13 and 5. They close things out. 16-14, showing their resilience once again, but it definitely hasn't been the comfortable victory we expected of them.
No, certainly not, Tom. I honestly felt like we were destined for Mirage. I thought we were going a third map. Yeah. I almost feel as if Spirit had almost written themselves off, but the tenacity of players like Nia, as you said, like really stepping up. Such a masterclass of the last 5 or so rounds, like so good. But we'll have the desk to break down all of the action we just witnessed as we have our first best of 3 done. There's another 3 coming up, but first there'll be a short break, guys.
After a dirge on Dust 2, Apeks made things look competitive on Train, but sadly could not close it out and take us to a third and final map. And Spirit have secured themselves a place in the playoffs. So let's just talk about Train. Let's just ignore Dust 2. Just wipe it from the record, because what's the point? Instead, I want to give it a little bit of praise to Apeks, because Blair, they had a terrible piss around. This is no joke, okay? I'm going to confess. I went to get a flapjack. I just needed the sustenance to keep me going through the series. I went downstairs. It was a 4v2, and the advantage was in Apeks' favor. And then I came back, and actually we were outside on the bomb site, and the opponent Spirit had got a plant, and then they managed to win. And what the hell happened? Is what I want to know.
They're gonna regret that. They're going to regret that. Like, if they'd won the pistol round and managed to convert the anti-ecos, this could have been over a while ago. This could be 16-11, 16-10 going the way of Apeks, so they're going to be a little pissed off about it. At the same time, they also did manage to win a 2v4 later on in the second half, so they're going to be okay. I was actually very impressed with the reaction coming out from Apeks at CD side. The moment they lost a play, they lost a lot of opening duels, but JKM, he was just going for these plays, just being unleashed on the CD side. Then we saw Dennis wake up in the latter portion of the first half as well. But the T side, that's the problem. We saw this in Dust 2. The T side was almost non-existent. They were giving too much space for the CDs to work with. Similar thing happening over here on Train as well. And Train T side is way harder than Dust 2. So that was a problem there. Train was always going to be hot on the attacking side, but kudos to Apeks. They made it look very competitive, at least on the defending side.
And Dennis, Vu, I have been talking about my reservations about Dennis as an in-game leader. And in the past, he was more associated with primary AWPing, and now he's picking up the secondary AWP, and he was getting work done on Train.
Yeah, as soon as he got that AWP in his hands, I mean, he got one opening duel all game long. What he was really good for was coming up after those opening duels that they consistently lost 21-9 in opening duels for Spirit. And Dennis was clutch when it came to retakes, when it came to just picking off players as they moved through yard. I'm not sure the utility was quite on point for Spirit to lock him down. So he was given a lot of good looks, and he just absolutely destroyed.
Well, let's have a chat to the destroyer of Norwegian dreams right now. Magix is on the line. Magix, congratulations on making it through to the playoffs. I do want to ask about your T side of Train, because you guys are great at picking up opening duels, but sometimes you were struggling to maintain the advantage you'd won. So tell me what was going on there.
Hi, during T side, we were doing a lot of opening frags, and we were about to end the round to make an execute there, but most of the rounds JHM just crucial push and killed 2 or so, and he was like breaking the rounds. Like he broke a few rounds like this, and then we had no money for this, so we were doing eco, and that's how we lose the streak on T side.
One trend we're seeing right now, Magix, is even yesterday, right? Like, you're winning on your opponent's map picks very comfortably. It's only been 2 games, yes, but you look at Nuke, you look at Train, these are the maps you kind of, you know, we would at least expect you to win more convincingly. So, do you think this could be a little worrying for you, you know, heading into the playoffs?
Yes, this thing could be a little bit worrying that we are playing our pick that like, you know, a lot of rounds there, and we should be winning it like more confident. It might affect us, but we'll fix what was wrong there, and we'll be playing better in playoffs.
Okay.
You guys really struggled when it came to a few key retakes you guys lost on that T side. Is that something you've been working on?
Not really. I think like it was more about poor positions from someone. You know, someone was not able to trade. Like there was 2 or 3 clutches during T side that we wasn't able to win.
Well, Magix, I want to ask about your secondary op on that map. That was quite vital. Is this something that you're particularly focused on improving, or something that maybe you did, I guess, on a primary basis in previous teams?
Yes, I've been enjoying playing op for a long time, but in some positions I'm playing without op because it is not effective there. But where I can afford myself an op, I'm taking it, and I'm feeling that I can play good with it. It's easy weapon.
I think you are thinking correctly. An easy weapon, though. I think I need some tips.
Oh, just aim and shoot. There's nothing else needed.
That's what I've been doing.
You don't need to move.
I've been running and gunning, boys. Thank you so much. Congratulations, Magix. We will see you in the playoffs. I love getting tips from 17-year-olds. By the way, if you are trying to hydrate, this is actually how you hydrate and stay healthy. Is every time we mention the age of Magisk, or we think about the good days of day 1 with Chauzy, the 15-year-old going on 30, you have to take some water.
Hydration, always key. Always key.
Hydration.
I really like the Magic's info. It's stop, scope, flick, fire. It's very important.
Oh, that's a classic.
Very important when you're opping.
I'm learning so much from you boys. All right, then, after that match, let's take a look at the Group A bracket, see where it gets us. It's quite simple, really. We've only got 8 teams in the running, and Blair, this is what we expected, isn't it?
Yeah, it was what we expected. Maybe the scoreline's a little deceiving, right? Like we mentioned, 2-0, 2-0 for Spirit, although 2 of those maps against Flow Skull of all teams as well was a little too close for comfort. And like Magic said, hopefully they look much more better when they do play the semifinals. Lower bracket, though. It's the rematch we all expected. Apeks, AGF, it did come down to the wire and overpass. I'm excited for this. It's taking place later on today.
It is. It's going to be our 3rd series of the day. Our next one is going to be the Group B winners match. It is going to be Gambit. They're facing off against Namiga, so it's going to be a CIS derby. Gambit looking like the favourites in that one. And we have to take a bit of an extended break. Yesterday, I called 45 minutes a short break, so today is definitely a longer one, because we're going to be back at around 1:15 if you are in mainland Europe for a match that starts at 1:30 p.m. So we will see you very soon. Oh, hang on a second. No, we're actually getting a bit more time in the pre-show. Producer Catch is telling me we're actually going to be back at 13:07 on the dot. So don't blooming miss it. We will be back very soon.